All right, it's Friday, October 27th. We haven't been to the track in a month. We haven't updated you in longer than that. So here's what you've missed. So it's been about a month since we've been to the track. SG&P had a couple huge races with Duck X Productions in the house. So we want to go back and tell you about the last time we were at the track that we actually didn't report on. Me, personally, I was pretty bummed out. I was totally expecting the car to go in the 10s. Did it? We don't know. I don't think so. The data shows it didn't. So there's a big grudge race in town, right up there at SG&P. They were only running 8th mile clocks, no times, all night on the clocks. So our first hit, while it did go much quicker than our 11:22, we only got an 8th mile recording. It showed that we went a 7:09 to the 8th mile, and that I thought was really close to being a 10:99 or an 11:0. Math shows it might have been closer to an 11:01. So we went up to the tower, told them we were making quarter-mile passes all night. Please keep the timers on for us. Next hit was an 11:03. We followed that up with an 11:06. Now, once again, we don't have that 10-second time slip. We never posted about. At that time, JPC was running well into the 10s. So we were a little disappointed. This was still on stock tune, 93 octane, no mixing fuels, but we did add a couple parts to the car to go from the 11:22 to that 11:03. What we added first was a ported intake manifold from our friend Jason at 1320 Junkie. It showed that in worse weather than the 11:22 pass, the car actually did pick up 1 more mile per hour. So we were really happy about that. On the dyno, we couldn't really see much of an increase because we also added a torque converter from Billet Specialties. Now, with that torque converter being loose, you can't really show the mid RPM gains for the horsepower and torque. Why? The torque converter is loose. It's just gonna go right up to 5,000 RPMs. You gotta throw all that data out the window. But that torque converter did really help improve the 60-foot. With the 355s that the car came with from the factory, we put the 355s back in there, and the car did 60 foot 1.5 tenths quicker to 60 feet. Well, as we were talking about, 10.5 quicker to 60 feet, 11:22. Scott, it should have gone 10s. It probably should have, but it keeps making that darn gear change right before the quarter mile, and it just lugs through on its face at 5,600 RPMs. So looking at that data again from the first pass, right, where we went to 7:098 to the 8th mile. The 11:03 was a 7:11.3. So you're looking at 15 thousandths of a second difference. That's why I think the math shows it probably was an 11:0, 11:1, but I don't think it was quite that 10-second pass. If we would have been able to lean on the brakes a little bit harder, to try and 60-foot the car better, I think we would have gotten that 10-second pass, but we're working with some cool new things from our friends at Bear, and hopefully we'll be able to launch that car harder tonight. So when we went the 11:22, went a 177 short time. As I mentioned, we added that Circle D converter. That 177 dropped all the way to a 163. So almost a full 10.5 with that Circle D converter. The best part about it, the car loved it. No check engine lights, no codes, no torque limiters, no nothing. So simply bolt in that Circle D converter and you're gonna be going quicker to 60 feet each and every time. It's why we love the guys, Chris and everybody over there at Circle D. They make an exceptional product, and it's the only converter that'll ever be in the Steeda Silver Bullet. So last minute thrash like always. Chris just threw in our new Auburn Pro differential. We also made a gear swap, went down to a 331. We're trying to avoid that shift at the top end of the track that you've heard a lot of us all talk about. It's shifting right before the quarter mile with that 355 gear. We tried the 409, it didn't like it. We're gonna go to a 331. Math shows we should be able to cross the stripes at about 6,600 RPMs instead of it shifting and lugging through at about 56. Well, the more horsepower you make going through the traps, the higher that trap speed should be. So throwing in that Auburn Pro, and we're gonna go check out these awesome wheels we just got. So huge shout out to our friend Glenn at Billet Specialties and Joe with Mickey Thompson Tires. These are the new Billet Specialties red line wheels with the Mickey Thompson front radials. So this is a DOT tire with the ET Street R rear tire that we've been running, the 305, and we can't wait to get out to the track tonight and make some passes. All right, so as you see, very first pass off the trailer was an 11-13 with a 5. Now, every time we've been to the track with the Steeda Silver Bullet 2.0, the first pass has always been its fastest. But this time, it happened on the second pass. So on the second hit, we ended up going a little bit faster, an 11.125. Now what was strange about this is a 60 foot actually was worse. We went a 169 on the second pass and a 166 on the first pass. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. In fact, nothing the car was really doing made a lot of sense, except for the fact that it was really, really consistent. In our 4 passes on Friday night, all 4 passes were within 14 thousandths of a second. So it was being consistent, just consistently a tenth of a second slower than when we had the 355s. Why did we put in the 331s? Well, it was simple. We wanted to try to avoid the top end shift that we were getting right there about 10 feet short of the traps. So instead of lugging the motor through at about 5,700 RPMs, we knew if we could be going through the traps around 6,700 RPMs, the car's making more power. The more power you're making as you're crossing the finish line, the faster the mile an hour is. And that's what happened. We went 127.92, a 93 octane with this car. All motor, no tune, nothing. So the fact that we made more power going through the traps is exactly what we wanted to happen. The problem is we weren't able to duplicate the 163 to 164 short time of the 355s. We were hoping with this new set of Bear calipers, which shout out to Bear, they knocked these things out for us in 2 weeks. We were gonna be able to lean on the brake pedal a little bit harder, flash the converter up over 3,000, which that Circle D, I was able to get up to about 3,200, and it would leave harder. Unfortunately, with pump gas, no tune, it's still just not making a ton of horsepower down low. We couldn't get the car out of the hole. We were a half a tenth slower to 60 feet. Once again, half a tenth is a full tenth, big end of the track. That's why we went a full tenth slower at the end. So what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna go back and change the gear again. I'm sure our tech Jamie is just thrilled by this. But we learned some things talking with people on the internet over the weekend that we might be able to manually shift the car at the end of the track and avoid that shift altogether. Basically shifting into sport mode as you're going down the track. So I'm excited. I'm gonna take it home to lunch a couple times this week and I'm gonna play with it on the street to see where I could maximize each gear change by shifting it manually. You know, a lot of people think we go out there, we do this, try and set records, pound our chest, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of things different about the S650 than the S550. And that's why I work with companies like Bear and several others. We're really trying to find out what the key differences are with this new platform to bring a better product to you, the consumer, each and every day. So while it's fun going out there, going fast, at the end of the day, it's to try to find out what works, what doesn't work, what's changed, and what companies like Steeda Bear Brakes, and others in the aftermarket are gonna do to make sure you enjoy your S650. So yeah, like I mentioned, we're gonna try to go back to that 355 gear set and try to manually shift it so we can avoid that shift. We need to bring that 60 foot back down. The 355s would help, possibly even a set of 373s. But I'm not certain if we can avoid that shift going to a more aggressive 373. We'd also like to try and take a little bit more weight out of the car. When it did go the 1103, we did have a lightweight battery. We think we got a bad one because it was throwing off all sorts of things in the car. So we had the stock battery out this time and the new wheels. While they look awesome, with that rear bead lock, it's about 4 pounds heavier. That's 8 pounds of rotating mass. So the car was probably about 40 to 45 pounds heavier going the 11.1 this weekend compared to the 11.0s we did a month prior. So the plan with the 2024 is to keep it all motor, similar to the 2018. No nitrous, nothing like that. We're not gonna put any of that on the car. We wanted to be relatable, show you guys what parts work, what don't. So keep following the build. If you'd like to see anything else on it, leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Remember, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Hit like, subscribe. Remember, Steeda, at the end of the day, where speed matters.